You're listening to the My Hair Ain't Nappy podcast, where I'll be giving valuable insight and thought-provoking perspectives about the connections between our hair and how we live our daily lives. I know that many of you have heard people talking about Jerry curls and pressing curls, high top fades and sporting waves, the best products for your hair, and so much more. But what you haven't heard is how our hair can be a full reflection of what's going on in our hearts, what's going on in our minds, what's going on in our bodies, and what's going on in our souls. I'm your host, Darius Peace, and I'm excited to be your weekly guide on the journey to having better hair and a better life. One of my dearest friends came into the salon recently celebrating having graduated from college with her PhD. And although receiving a PhD is a milestone at any moment, but this particular graduation gets a special accolade from me because my friend completed this post-grad program all while battling and defeating breast cancer. Fortunately, she is in remission, and I'm so proud that she is a doctoral degree earner from Pepperdine University. And while celebrating this milestone with her during her salon visit, she was able to give me a breakdown of what some of her research entailed for her thesis. And much of her course study was centered around the topic of the role that education plays in the overall success of individuals, as well as how certain advantaged and disadvantaged backgrounds can further influence this achievement or the lack thereof. But she was able to address issues such as socioeconomic background, emotional background, dietary background, situational background, neighborhood background, and many other influences that children are likely to bring with them into the classroom. And this is not just referencing younger ages, but also college age children. I was mind blown at the level of details that she had to bring into her research, which led to the reinforcement of a belief that I've had for years as it pertains to teamwork. Throughout my lifetime, I've witnessed so many groups split up, so many teams split up. I'm talking about music groups, work teams, project teams, family teams, marriage teams, and so many others have all, in my opinion, lost focus and patience with their collective efforts being used in achieving a larger goal or impact of success. And I'm enthused about delving more into this topic, but I'm going to do that right after a word from our sponsors, y'all.
Visit HayaBeauty.com. That's HAYAH beauty.com, or give us a call 205-703-8022 for questions, for information, or to book your appointment.
Beauty can take you higher. The mission is to inspire. I am, I was, and I always will be. Beauty higher. Beauty can take you higher. The mission is to inspire. And I always choose to start my day with higher, higher beauty.
So we are back, and I want to preface this episode of the My Hair Ain't Nappy podcast by informing everybody not to take the content that you're about to hear personally. And I want to say that because, you know, many of the episodes have sensitive content and triggering content, but I want to make sure that this particular episode is not heard and interpreted as an attack or a dismissal of anybody's thoughts or feelings about this particular subject matter. So I just wanted to put that out there first. I've always been on a team, because we're talking about team in this episode. I've always been on a team. I'm the oldest of 4 siblings. I'm the husband in my household of seven people, two dogs, and the occasional stray dog that might try to come on our porch and be a part of us that I have to call the Humane Society to get rid of. But I'm still on team. And I am the oldest of four siblings, come from what I call circumstantial poverty as a result of a failure in the leadership of my inherited team, my parents. They couldn't get it together. And I would say that they couldn't get it together because they had no vision or long-term goals or guidance in achieving success with their created team, me and my siblings. And as a result of their split, their separation, their divorce, we lost everything. When I say everything, I mean everything. Well, almost everything. I mean, clearly, my brothers and I, my siblings and I, still held on to hope as a key influence in our moving forward. But even with that, we were still left to start from the very bottom without any sturdy stepping stones to bypass certain life obstacles. And so I know I began this episode reflecting on the research that my good friend pursued for her thesis as a PhD candidate, which once again, shout out to her for climbing that mountain. But one of the conclusions of her research was that children are less likely to reach performance success in education when there are elements of poverty, elements of emotional dysfunction, elements of abuse, elements of poor parental guidance, elements of the lack of community support, food deserts, elements of poor nutrition, medical deserts, and so forth. And everything that happens inside the home is taken with each student into their respective classrooms. I remember so many occasions where I've had to go to school with the unfortunate obstacle of having to focus and perform with the excellence of getting good grades on tests and trying to smile through and hide the fact that my mom and daddy got to fighting the night before, or I'm tired in class because my daddy woke my mama and my siblings and myself up so that we can walk to the other side of town in the middle of the night to confront his insecurity of my mama entertaining a extramarital affair, which she was not. And but we had to walk because we didn't have a car at the time. And or you know, me being tired because my grandmama had to threaten my stepdaddy the night before me going to school because he was bringing his alcoholic tantrums to her house, which is where we lived, or, you know, going to school and trying to perform with the previous day's episode of walking home from school and another little boy pulling out a gun on me. And I know that's not funny, but, you know, sometimes we're conditioned to laugh so that we don't have to cry about a certain situation. Or one of my classmates, you know, telling me that her neighbor comes over to her house while her mama's at work so that they can have sex. And, you know, she left bloodstains or bloodstains were left on the bed because she had lost her virginity. And, you know, just carrying that like what? Or a little boy on my street being hit by a car by another one of our neighbors. I mean, so much drama and trauma that I was forced to bring into the classroom. I mean, how in the hell am I or is anyone expected to get good grades and maintain focus in the classroom when you got all that bullshit constantly taking place at home on your family's team home front? That's crazy. And I've always been a strong believer in a two-parent household. Always. Even well before I was mature enough to clearly articulate it, it was my belief. I mean, all the images that I ever saw on TV were where two-parent households two parents were involved, always showcased a higher level of stability and guidance, especially in the cases where those parents were operating as a team. Now, many of the images that inspired this belief for me were on TV, but I knew that these images were a real thing because I've got family members who showcased a Cosby-ish or a Huxtable-ish lifestyle. I'm talking about households, and I'm speaking in my deepest Southern Afro vernacular. So if I say talking about, I mean talking about. But I'm talking about households where both parents were working together on some level, whether one was working in the home and the other was working outside, meaning if the mama was at home as a housewife and the husband was out as a working class citizen, that they were still working together as a team. And whatever the dynamic was, both team players were operating to keep a smooth flow of that household. I'm going to pause right there because I do want to talk about my Southern Afro vernacular. I know that sometimes, when it comes to publicly speaking, we're encouraged to speak in a language or a dialect that is standard for everyone to understand. But because this subject matter is very deep and close to home for me, I'm going to speak in my deepest Southern Afro vernacular. And if I need to pause and explain things, I'll do so. But I'm going to say words like timeout and finna go and all of those things, and I'll clarify that. But back to what I was saying, I know that every household is different, presenting its variety of highs and lows, pros and cons. But nevertheless, the statistics show that educational performance is higher for children that live in stable two-parent nuclear households, that the emotional and psychological stability and stamina is stronger with children who live in stable two-parent households, that the likelihood of achieving financial success in their adulthood is higher for those who come from stable two-parent nuclear households. Again, I am not here bashing anyone who's not a part of a nuclear two-parent household. That's not what I'm here to say anyway. I am stating the facts from research experts on this subject matter. And I know that there are plenty of success stories out there that may come from single-parent households or other different type households where the grandparents may be the people who are raising you, where you may have two mamas or you may have two daddies or you may have, whatever the case is. I know that there are success stories that come out of these situations. However, I'm talking about the statistics and the facts that come from research experts on this matter regarding the numbers showcasing themselves as dominant with success in two-parent nuclear households. So over the years that I've been a hair care pro, I've had numerous people confide in me with complaints or concerns about their marriages or any kind of relationship, whatever their relationships are. And many of these complaints were about things that I believe are and were repairable. And there would be cases in which I would have men coming to me talking about their nagging wives or their lazy wives, their unhappy wives, their unattractive wives, and so forth. And then there'd also be cases where women would come talking to me about their lazy husbands or their low-earning husbands, unattractive husband, him and his gut, or in-law issues, him not being able to get his mama together, or financial issues, poor money management, poor focus issues like gaming, always on the video game and not being able to give her or the family more attention and so forth. And many of the conversations would involve mentions of divorce as a resolve. Now, because I know firsthand from my childhood experience about the detriments and the downturns that can happen with the family structure as a consequence of divorce, I am not by any means an advocate of people severing their marriages for problems that I believe can be solved, especially in situations where children are involved. And I'm specifically talking about situations where the problems can be solved. Now, I know that every couple dynamic may have their non-negotiables in relationships, and non-negotiables, for people who may not know what that is, are deal breakers. That's what a non-negotiable is. It's a deal breaker. It's one of those things where it's just like, nope, absolutely not. Under any circumstances, am I taking this? This is ending right now because this is completely unacceptable. That's what a non-negotiable is. But sometimes these non-negotiables need to be evaluated with the bigger picture in mind. Now, I'm not saying that people need to settle for non-productive, unsuccessful, unhappy relationships. I'm not saying that at all. Especially, if you're in a situation where you're experiencing any form of any form of abuse, whether it be verbal or physical. In that case right there, it may be time to let that relationship go because abuse is never good for anyone. And so I'm not saying that because that could easily result in a downward spiral in which everyone involved can experience long-term suffering. And we don't want that at all. I mean, if you're in a situation where drugs and alcohol are compromising the stability of the household, yeah, you need to let that go because that's not cool. And that rarely, and I mean very, very, very rarely ends on the up and up. If you're in a situation where infidelity is a deal breaker or non-negotiable and it's creating havoc and a safety compromise of the household, you need to let that go. So I'm going to give you an example of what that means because there are some people I know who have been able to really recover from infidelity or cheating in marital relationships. I remember when my mama and my stepdaddy broke up one time, and it was this lady that came to our house, and my mama almost had to get off in her ass because she showed up at our house, whoever the lady was that he was cheating with, but she showed up on our door, and you already know if a woman is at home with her kids, her whole goal is to protect. And so, in my mama's eyes, it's like, I know this bitch did not come to my door while my kids at home with me or ever, period. But that's one of those situations when I talk about creating a havoc and a safety compromise of the household, that could be a compromise of safety because if a fight breaks out for any reason, you never know where a fight could end up. It could easily end up in somebody dying because at the end of the day, everybody does not fight fair. But, that was a fair fight. And me and my siblings was there, so we weren't even about to let my mama go down in no fight. That bitch was going to get her ass drugged up the street just because she was courageous enough to come over there. But anyway, there are other unique situations that may present divorce as the best option for the overall safety of individuals involved in the family. So I'm not saying that divorce should never be an option. I'm just saying, if there are situations in which it can be repaired, then do what it takes to repair it. And the situation that I'm talking about, where people are coming to me expressing various concerns are usually regarding conflicts that I believe can be repaired through counseling and active efforts made by every party involved to best preserve the likelihood of long-term success for that relationship and future generations. Now, my typical response when people come to me stating that, they having issues and they complain and all that stuff, and they thinking about getting a divorce, I always be like, look, you need to sit your ass down somewhere because there is so much more at stake than just these emotions that you're having a hard time managing. I mean, just coming with, she just getting on my nerves. I think I'm finna let her go. Or he getting on my nerves. I'm just not happy with him anymore because of blah, blah, things that can be fixed. And it's like, nah, you need to sit your ass down somewhere. And if your spouse is getting on your nerves that much, because they seem to be maybe less motivated to do better professionally, or they seem to be less motivated to get out of the house and take you out on dates or go out with you, or they seem to be experiencing a sadness or a low libido, go and get some therapy. And therapy doesn't have to showcase itself in one way. There are a lot of different options for therapy out there now. I know that there are a lot of different options out there, and I know that there are a lot of people who are resistant to getting help because that's one of the common things that I've heard both men and women say, that they have presented the option for therapy to their partners, and the partner would meet that offer with resistance. And if you're that dynamic who's presenting the option for counseling in the relationship or therapy in the relationship, move forward with getting your own therapy. I mean, that's even a good start. And while you're there, ask that licensed professional, because I'm always, suggesting that you go to a licensed professional as a start. Not just going to your church and getting somebody to pray for you, because that's good. But that's good, in my opinion, when it's compounded or coupled or accompanied with a licensed therapist to guide in that situation. But ask them about, other creative options for presenting it to the spouse. What are some other ways that we can experience therapy with each other and get to a place of resolve where we're both experiencing happiness, where we've, met at a common ground and we're able to continue moving forward in our relationship happily and peacefully. Ask them about ways of achieving therapy for those who are less resistant to sitting on someone's couch revealing their problems. And if none of those ways are a fit, and that person continues to be resistant and they don't want to do anything to make the relationship better, that's when severing the relationship may be a best option, but not when no effort has been put in and it's just, I'm just tired of this. I'm just sick of it. I'm over it. And you're just passively retreating without any consideration of the bigger picture. Because the thing that we have to be most mindful of is the long-term effects of that type of decision, especially when children are involved. And when you got children, their overall academic and long-term success and performance are things that we have to consider. We got to think about all of the setbacks that this can present for them and present to their future. I mean, we've got to consider all of the negative impacts that this can have on your financial stability and their financial stability. We've got to think about the impact that this has on what the child may be learning as it pertains to conflict resolution and overall relationship building. We've got to evaluate all the pros and cons that come along with or as a consequence of the decision to divorce and sever the family structure. This allows one to make when you look at those and really consider the long-term consequences or the overall consequences, it allows one to make a more logical and informed decision on how to best manage their lives. Because people out there who think that divorcing, your spouse because I'm just tired of this, I'm just so sick of this and blah, 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 and you getting on my nerves and he getting on my, she getting on my nerves, all of that, especially that's not going to simplify your situation, especially when small children are involved. You got to think again, because I know that there are situations out there where you may have emotionally mature and stable individuals who are able to create and preserve healthy co-parenting dynamics in which the children's stability is number one priority, but that is rare. And the proof is in the pudding, because many of us see a lot of chaotic relationships out there where the parents can't tolerate each other, where the mother and father aren't speaking. They just merely drop children off with one another, or, fail to communicate with matters of the children. It gets real ugly out there. And especially when you're talking about divorce and you get lawyers involved and assets being split. If you got assets to split, it can just get real dirty. And when it comes to Black folks in the United States of America, we don't have enough to justify divorce being our first option. I mean, we've already experienced the largest financial and emotional setback of any other group of people in the history of this country. Our ancestors built the foundation of financial wealth in the United States of America for free through being enslaved by European colonizers. And once freed, they had to start from nothing in their efforts to build and establish life stability, including financial stability, spiritual stability, emotional stability, and physical stability. I mean, they had to operate as a team. They had to operate as a community. And many of them knew that they were stronger together, much stronger together than they were apart. But on the flip side, many of them didn't recognize the strength and power of teamwork. And to this day, there are many who don't recognize the strength and the power of teamwork. That's why I mentioned, those music groups that I was talking about that couldn't make it together or had to split, or team with companies who had to split, or organizations who had to split, relationships who had to split, thinking that they would be able to make magic happen on their own. And there are situations where, some did, but the majority of situations where a team dynamic splits, they are not able to make magic. And there's usually a failure and a suffering that follows that. And, the thing that's messed up about situations where Black people are involved, when we choose divorce as our first option, especially when we're not putting in the effort to get help and actively perform with the help that we're getting, there are situations in which generation after generation has to start over from the bottom, especially when it comes to creating wealth opportunities. I mentioned earlier about the negative effects that came along with my childhood as a result of me not having the stability and the guidance of a two-parent household. There were things that I was exposed to that perhaps wouldn't have been the case if my parents had been stable and mature enough to operate as a team with the goal of building healthy contributors to the establishment of a strong and wealthy Black community. If they had that goal in mind, that I would have less likely been exposed to walking to school and somebody pulling out a gun on me, or being exposed to, conversation in which somebody talking about going home and having sex, and blood being left on the bed because her cherry was popped, or going to just all of the dramas and traumas, that came along with my upbringing. I just think that the likelihood of me experiencing that would have been decreased had my parents been mature enough to operate as a team. And, me seeing nuclear two-parent household images on TV is what inspired me unconsciously being selective with the type of company that I decided to keep in my youth, especially as it pertained to my peer groups. All of my closest friends were children of stable, not just two-parent households, but stable two-parent households. And all of them experienced a different type of financial security. All of them experienced a healthier emotional stamina than me. They all had an excellence with their academic achievement. And of course, I was smart and I had excellent academic achievement, but theirs came from the support and the backing of their household. Mine was just because that was what was in me. And of course, we all dealt with the stuff that come along with being a child or being a teenager or adolescent, young adult, identity stuff. And, am I, pretty enough or handsome enough or attractive enough, all that stuff. But their stability and guidance to this day has offered them a different type of setup in their adulthood. And one of the main things that they all have and experience currently is the support of their two-parent households. Even as they've moved forward into their own marital relationship in which they're operating in team with their spouses and their own children, they still have that backing and support. Now, my best example for everything is always my own life and my own story. This year makes 20 years that my wife and I have been married, and I am so grateful for my wife and for us because we've been able to establish and create a new lineage, a new culture, and a new roadmap for love in life. Before we got married, we took a compatibility assessment, and this assessment allowed us to discover what areas in our relationship needed stronger focus while we were going through premarital counseling sessions. And the assessment revealed that we were highly compatible in every category that we tested in except family relationships. And when I talk about family relationships, I'm specifically talking about or referring to in-law dynamics. My mama and my daddy split when I was 5 years old. And the complex relationship that my mama and my stepdaddy had didn't exemplify one of the stability that I saw with Heathcliff and Claire on the Cosby Show, or the stability that I saw with any of my friends' parents. Both my parents carried a lot of bitterness resulting from their experiences with each other in their marriage. And unfortunately, those experiences have been all they've been able to give to me and my siblings. All their negative experience, that's all they've been able to give to me and my experience. And, as we've grown up and established two-parent households of our own, that's all they've been able to give us. And we don't have, and I'm talking about me and my siblings, we don't have the inheritance of healthy guidance from mama and daddy, or my mama and my stepdaddy, because they're still together operating as a team. We don't have that. We've never had the inherited luxury of being able to go to mom and daddy for financial guidance or support. We aren't able to go to mama and daddy who work together as a team to help with establishing generational wealth and health for our own children. We can't go to them and ask for guidance on building healthier relationships with our spouses. We've all had to start from the bottom and try to figure it out all our own. Now, this is not me bashing our mama and daddy, because I'm well aware that they could and can only give what they have to give. If that's all you got to give, how are you going to give stability when you don't have stability? How are you going to give emotional strength, and guidance if you don't have that and didn't receive that, even if it was from yourself? And all of the aforementioned things that were just stated, that they didn't, and really, transparently speaking, they still don't have it to give. They didn't have it to give, and they still don't have it to give, in my opinion. And if there's one, and in my experience, and if there's one thing that I'm learning and growing in every single day, that is the concept and the reality of recovery. Recovery is what I believe is one of the most beautiful experiences of marriage, especially in a two-parent household, in my opinion. It's the recovery that's so magical. I feel so blessed and so honored that my wife chooses to do life with me, because I didn't bring the stability of a healthy two-parent household into our marital dynamic. I didn't bring that to the table. My wife didn't inherit an emotionally stable or, in my opinion, a mature in-law relationship from my parents. She didn't inherit the kind of in-law parental support that every wife deserves from their spouse, in my opinion, especially when children come into the picture. My wife didn't inherit that. Unfortunately, she inherited my poverty as it pertains to my family background. But fortunately, that was our misfortune. But fortunately, what our fortune is that my wife did inherit a husband who is very intentional about changing the narrative of my background and creating a beautiful reality in team and partnership with her. Now, that is one thing that she inherited and I inherited. We both inherited that. We both inherited the beauty of partnership with each other, getting in the dirt and tilling the soil of what seemed like unfertile ground for us. We've had to learn coping skills on our own. We've had to learn financial literacy without the guidance of my parents' contribution. We've had to learn parenting and wealth building and wealth planning without the stepping stone of my parents' contribution to us moving forward. We've had to learn and create a culture and a language of love all on our own. And again, I feel very fortunate that my wife chooses every single day to build and grow in life with me, because I came to the table with no parental backing or support. And life has been showing me every single day how vital that parental stability is in everybody's life. Fortunately, our children get to experience what teamwork looks like. What I didn't get to experience, they do get to experience, as well as what teamwork does. They get to experience the seasons that love and life present. They get to experience the rainbows that show up after the storms of life. They get to experience the flowers blooming in the spring after the winter chill has set the ground for new life. They get to experience the stability of love and affirmations, hugs. My oldest daughter is going to be going off to college next year, and I feel so grateful that she'll have the luxury to always be able to contact mama and daddy for any support that she needs. And that's all my children. I'm talking about mama and daddy working as a team, not mama and daddy severed. I'm grateful for emotional stamina. I mean, that's one of the anchors that I think is necessary for moving forward in any area of our lives. That's emotional stamina. It's our own individual emotional stamina and fortitude that allow us to build healthy relationships and dynamics in every area of our lives. And that's what has equipped us, my wife and I, to be able to offer our children what they need every time they step foot in the classroom. And that's what's going to equip all of us, period, to be able to offer our children what they need to carry with them every time they step foot in their classrooms. They shouldn't have to try to focus and work and excel with drama and trauma from home. They should be able to go and focus and learn and grow with a healthy anchor of support and guidance from the home team, i.e. mama and daddy, or mama and mama, or daddy and daddy, or grandmama and granddaddy, or whatever whatever team dynamic is help raise them and ushering them into stability. That's the type of focus that we all have to carry with us every day as we exist in our relationship, especially those marital relationships. Because if you standing up here living in your feelings with the idea of sabotaging your family stability because of some shit that can be repaired or fixed with active effort and intention, the situation, whatever it is, you need to sit your ass down and get it together. I mean, sit your ass down, get your relationship together, because there is well more to lose than there is to gain in many of these situations. And there's always a bigger picture and a collector to consider. I had somebody to tell me a long time ago that living and being driven by your feelings can fuck your whole life up. Meaning, don't let your feelings drive you. You're gonna stay in your feelings so much that your feelings gonna fuck you up. And this was something that somebody told me while I was young and in my 20s, because I was always living in my feelings, taking everything personally, not having any skills to cope and deal with people. So this is not me dismissing or discrediting feelings. It's not that at all, because our feelings are essential, but they should not be the driving force of our lives. Again, as Black folks in the United States of America, we don't have enough to continue sabotaging our family structures. We don't own enough. We don't have enough assets to pass along to the next generation, collectively speaking. And we really can't afford to continue setting our future generations up for failure like that. I mean, they shouldn't have to keep starting over and over and over again from the bottom because we're not intentional about creating and maintaining stable family structures. We got to do better. And that better starts with help. Get some counseling. And go into it with the intent and the openness of doing whatever it takes to move forward. Sit your feelings aside, set your pride aside, and let go of whatever needs to be let go of so that you can move your family forward. If this means that you letting go of people, places, or things that are creating blocks in the progression of your family structure, get rid of it. This can all be achieved with the guidance of marriage and family therapy. There are counselors out there, y'all. And I know it seems easier said than done, but it is definitely achievable. And while you're moving forward and creating a healthier life and a stronger anchor of support and love for your children and their pursuit of excellence, always remember that your hair ain't nappy and my hair ain't nappy either. Go get some counseling, y'all. Until next time.
Speakers, coaches, experts, and entrepreneurs. Whether you're keynoting events, growing your business, or commanding the boardroom, You are highly skilled and accomplished at what you do. But something's missing. You don't have a cohesive brand to match your level of success. But not to worry, that's where we come in. We're Honeysuckle Lane Creative Co., and we create stunning visuals that capture the essence of your business and give you the online presence of your dreams. With a full suite of creative services, including photography, web design, graphic design, and marketing strategy, we make sure you're as extraordinary online as you are in your area of expertise. Ditch the DIY and work with an experienced team that gets results. Find us online at honeysucklelanecreative.com and on Instagram at honeysuckleLane_creative. Let's bring your brilliance to life with an unforgettable brand.
Thank you for listening to the My Hair Ain't Nappy podcast. Reach out to us on social media. We're on TikTok and we're on Instagram at the My Hair Ain't Nappy podcast. We want to hear your stories. Until next time, love you and love your hair.